My flight was canceled, leading me to return to the hotel instead. Upon entering the main building, I felt elated and made a beeline for the concierge desk. Inquiring about my wife, the receptionist responded, "Your wife, she's by the pool with Mr. Mason." The events that followed felt unreal. For months, Claire and I had eagerly anticipated our trip to Aspen. The stress and demanding schedule we endured prior had left us depleted. The first 2 days in the mountains were blissful fresh air, snowy vistas, and the hotel's comfort. But on the morning of the third day, my boss, Mr. Mason, contacted me with an urgent work matter that required my immediate attention in Houston. My planned trip was spoiled. I hesitated, considering refusing or postponing the flight, but Claire surprisingly showed understanding. "Go," she said softly but resolutely, helping me pack. "Work is work." I sighed, packed my bag, and called a taxi to the airport. Instead of spending the weekend at the hotel, I found myself stuck at the airport due to windy conditions and flight cancellations. My alternative flight was rescheduled for the next day, making it impractical to stay in the noisy terminal overnight. With a surprise visit in mind, I hesitated before calling Claire to inform her of my return. Instead, I envisioned arriving unannounced at our hotel room door, followed by an enjoyable evening together at the poolside restaurant under the starlit sky. Thus, with this delightful image, I entered the hotel's main building and approached the concierge desk where a young man greeted me warmly. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hale," he said pleasantly. "It seems you've returned earlier than expected." I acknowledged with a wink. Indeed, my plans have taken an unexpected turn. When I asked about Claire's current location, the concierge informed me that she was by the pool in the company of Mr. Mason. This revelation left me momentarily stunned. Over 3 days in the hotel, we hadn't crossed paths with anyone. Our time was solely spent together. It's possible that Claire had chatted with some elderly men or a family on the lounge chairs. That must be it. I decided to head up to our room for a change of clothes. I requested a fresh key card from the desk and ascended. The room was empty. A breezy mountain air wafted in through the slightly open balcony door, filling the space with Claire's favorite perfume, hinting at jasmine. My gaze landed on the round table. By the window, 2 half-empty champagne glasses stood, their sparkling contents now flat and bearing a faint lipstick stain around one glass rim. At first, I tried to convince myself that Claire had run into someone staying at the hotel. A solo woman vacationing could easily strike up a conversation with another guest. However, upon opening the closet, her dresses were joined by a man's suit, not mine. I momentarily gaped at it for a few seconds, replaced by a seamless incision instead of cloth fabric. Unease stirred within me in that instant. My curiosity intensified. I secured the room and swiftly made my way to the poolside. Eager to verify this Mason with my own eyes, I was. The large windows revealed a pool ablaze with light, warmed and steaming. Tables of the restaurant dotted the area around it. I moved towards our favorite corner at the bar where Claire and I would often spend time. The soft music, warm lights, and refreshing mountain air provided an escape from the city's relentless pace. Upon rounding the corner, I came to a sudden halt. Among the patrons, I quickly recognized Claire. She sat at the bar with another man, sipping a cocktail. He had his arm around her shoulders, drawing her nearer to him. They chuckled softly, exchanging furtive glances. The man then turned halfway to order from the bartender, and the ground seemed to vanish beneath my feet. My supervisor, Mason, was the one who dispatched me to the airport just a few hours prior. For a brief instant, nothing seemed rational. Why was he here? He should have been in Houston. What was his reason for embracing my wife as if they had a right to do so? I scrambled for any plausible explanation, grasping at far-fetched ideas. Perhaps it was mere coincidence. Maybe he arrived for business purposes. Yet why hadn't he responded to my calls? And why had Claire remained silent? I retreated to the side, concealed behind one of the massive columns, and continued observing. I watched as Claire drew nearer to him, and Mason whispered something into her ear. She chuckled and placed her hand on his shoulder. A knot formed in my chest. How were they so familiar with each other when she seldom attended our company events? I had never extended an invitation for us to socialize outside of work, nor had I invited Mason to my home. Our connection was purely professional. Everything that unfolded before me seemed implausible. The more I observed them, the less plausible the excuses seemed to assuage my unease. I could have approached them instantly for clarification or returned to our room and waited there, yet I refrained. In hindsight, I restrained myself just in time. If they indeed shared something, intruding would have been effortless for them. they would swiftly concoct an explanation for anything I had witnessed. Instead, I snapped a few photos first, then discreetly departed from the pool area and moved to the lobby. I needed to clear my thoughts. That night, I rented a different room in another section of the hotel. I couldn't return to our room as if nothing untoward had occurred. From my new room, I could see the balcony of our old suite opposite me, while the pool area was visible within plain sight. A month prior, I informed Mason that I was taking a trip. Previously, he suggested Aspen's Mountain Lodge for a trip with my wife in a casual manner. Mason had reclined comfortably in his chair, flashed me a wink and said, "Skip the monotonous beaches. Opt for Aspen instead. Superb place, fresh air. Your wife will adore it. I've been there myself. I endorse it." However, another matter troubled me more. The day prior, he had interrupted my vacation for an emergency in Houston, and he just happened to be here when I wasn't. Moreover, he knew the room we were staying in, which I hadn't disclosed. We hadn't even spoken over the phone. This implied that Claire must have told him. At that instant, my phone rang. It was Claire. I glanced at the screen, feeling my heart accelerate. In that moment, a part of me still harbored hope she'd inform me my boss had merely stopped by the hotel en route. I answered the call, attempting to maintain my voice as composed as possible. "Yes, Claire," she responded with a sickeningly sweet tone. "Where are you? Has your flight departed already?" My flight was canceled due to strong winds, but I didn't mention it was canceled. Instead, I said I'd be spending the night at Aspen Airport, which isn't true. In reality, I rented a room at a motel near the terminal. The weather is harsh and the mountain roads are covered in snow, so I'll be here until morning. Claire sounded worried. We exchanged good nights and goodbyes without her bringing up Mason. Inside me, words bubbled up, but I forced myself to breathe deeply. If I caused a commotion now, Mason would likely fire me, giving Claire an upper hand in the divorce by portraying me as an irrational, jealous husband. I only have a few pictures and a brief video from the pool. I needed more evidence, something irrefutable that wasn't just a friendly encounter. The following morning, I woke up before dawn. In a chair by the window, I sipped my morning coffee while watching the Aspen Peaks turn pink under the rising sun. Then the door opposite mine opened, and Mason emerged onto the balcony. He lazed around, basking in the morning sunlight before Claire joined him. Wrapped in a white robe, she was greeted with a hug from Mason, who nuzzled her neck. It wasn't a mere coincidence anymore. My employer, who had summoned me from vacation for an urgent task, was on vacation with my spouse in our very room. The affair was plain to see. I snapped some more pictures before hastily gathering my belongings, checking out of the hotel, and calling a taxi to the airport. 2 hours later at Aspen Airport, I sat, feeling the world around me grow still as boarding commenced. Tourists rushed with their ski equipment. An announcer echoed flight details, but for me, everything seemed frozen in time. Called Mason, informed him that the Houston site issue has been resolved, preparing to dispatch full report. Uploaded morning video featuring his hug with Claire on our balcony suite in the messaging app. Received call from Mason moments later but declined. Phone buzzed again, this time it was Claire. Activated Do Not Disturb mode and stowed phone in jacket pocket. As plane descended into city around noon, visualized Mason hastily adjusting his expensive dark blue suit at that very instant. For went home stopover, opted for a taxi ride directly to the office instead. Contacted Danielle en route, asked her to anticipate my arrival in her office, emphasizing urgency and personal relevance. Danielle Walker, company owner, had inherited the business from her father. For nearly a decade, we'd navigated numerous crises together with success. Today, however, our professional rapport took a personal turn as Danielle's spouse, Mason Walker, was at the heart of the matter. I entered her office, took a seat opposite her, and shared every detail since the beginning. I elaborated on my vacation in Aspen, Mason's unanticipated presence, and the suit found in our suite's wardrobe. I placed the phone containing that morning's balcony footage on the table. Contrary to my expectations of her reaction, be it confusion, anger, or at least shock, Danielle quietly watched the entire video, set the phone down, and remained silent, gazing out the window for a few moments. Upon reflection, she had been harboring suspicions about Mason's infidelity for some time and was weary of it. She revisited the footage on her phone again, seemingly contemplating. "He canceled your vacation and informed me he was flying to a conference in Chicago. Then she looked me straight in the eye and said firmly, 'Since he stole your wife's life, you'll take his seat.'" She stood up from her desk and exited the office. Mason and Claire were expected back on Friday, Less than a day remained. The following morning, I arrived at the office earlier than normal. The corridors were unusually silent. I was about to ascend to my office when the main door abruptly swung open and Mason hastened in. He appeared tense. As he passed, he didn't even cast a glance in my direction. Without pausing, he made a beeline for Danielle's office. A few moments later, the door shut behind him. Back in my own office, I attempted to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting to the office at the opposite end of the floor. For nearly an hour, the door remained closed. Occasionally, muffled voices reached me, but I couldn't discern the words. Eventually, Mason emerged from the hallway. His countenance was pallid and unduly strung tight. He paused, fixed his gaze on me intensely without uttering a syllable, then hastened towards his personal office. After some brief moments, the secretary summoned me. "Mr. Hale," she announced, "Mrs. Walker requests your presence." Entering the office, Danielle pushed a stack of papers in my direction. On top lay an already signed decree. Beneath my name was the title Acting Chief Executive Officer. She stated, "Mason has been relieved of managing the company until the internal examination is concluded." I acknowledged with a nod, accepted the folder, and withdrew from the office. At that instant, it wasn't the new role that weighed heavily on my thoughts. A meeting with Claire was awaiting me. Upon returning home after work, Claire was ensconced in the living room. Her presence was evident. She had been anticipating my arrival all day. Hearing the door creak open, she promptly rose from the couch. For a few quiet moments, we merely gazed at each other without speaking. After a deep breath, she seemed to be mustering her courage. "I recognize that following these events, you may no longer trust me, yet find it in your heart to forgive me." As I drove home, my thoughts were consumed by one thing: our last phone call from Aspen. You didn't ask how I was feeling or when I could reschedule. All you cared about was whether I would stay at the airport overnight. Claire hesitated before speaking. She was afraid, she admitted softly. "When you informed me the flight had been canceled, it dawned on me that our relationship might end in this very fashion." "No, Claire," I replied calmly. "The ending occurred much sooner. I simply became aware of it in Aspen. That was our last conversation. A month later, we divorced." Was the tale about a boss who interrupted his employee's vacation and subsequently went on a trip with his girlfriend to your liking? Could he have acted differently? Or did he act correctly? Of the two conclusions, which do you believe would be more impactful? Express your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe. Numerous unspoken tales await.